want to focus on your building, whether you're doing well or not. You feel like you're probably doing well, but at the end you might not necessarily doing well, like completing Above and Below, Near and Far. Now we have Now or Never from Ryan Lockett. We're going to give you an overview and what we think of them coming up.
Hi, I'm Tarrant.
And Stella here from Meeple University. Welcome back to our review video.
Yes.
And today we have the gorgeous Now or Never by Ryan Lockett, who designed and also did the artwork.
Indeed.
Amazing, that person.
He has a very good collection, and of course this is alongside, it is the natural successor to Above and Below and Near and Far, which are his two most well-known games.
Which is also kind of like have that similar feel. I would say probably in the same universe. Kind of like has got that.
It's certainly in the same universe. I believe it's set on one of the planets from Empires of the Void too. I forget exactly which one.
Easter egg.
I think it is. But
so what we're going to do, we are going to give you an overview of this one, Now or Never. Might touch base later on with the other two, and I'm going to tell you what we think of it.
Yes. All right. So there's quite a lot to describe in this game. So I'll do my best here. The game will play over 6 rounds. All the scoring is at the end. And in each round, you're going to be taking essentially as many actions as you can. And there's 2 types of actions. You've got actions with specialists, which are these characters. Each player begins the game with 2 of these characters and can hire more. And each of them has an action. And you can use either your own or anyone else's specialist on your turn. Each specialist can only be used once, so they'll be flipped down after they're done. And that, to some extent, sets where the round will end. But each specialist also costs money to use. And so here I could, money's key. Money is king in this game. Lots of stuff costs money, and you need to have a good income of money. So if I wanted to use this action, I could pay 4 coins and use it. If someone else wanted to use it, they could pay me 4 coins. Sorry, they could pay 4 coins and I would get 3 of those. So that's one thing that that's one way that you can take your turn. The other way that you can take your turn is with your heroes out here on the map. And this will feel very familiar to players of Near and Far. It's got a very similar hearts type of mechanic. So you can take 3 hero actions per round. You can move up to as many spaces as shown on the arrow that you've chosen. You don't have to go from top to bottom. Then you move around the board until you find somewhere that you want to go. And as you're taking your actions, you can be expending hearts and health here. It's essentially a resource out on the board. So you can spend a heart to move an extra space. You have to spend a heart to move through a mountain space. And then a lot of the actions you'll take out here force you to spend hearts as well. Once you're out of hearts, you can't do anything more out there. You need to take an action which heals hearts, such as there are spaces out here that will give you hearts back, or there are specialists that will heal you. So that's the basics. You'll go around taking actions either here or here one at a time. Again, very much like Near and Far, except that you can, if you remember Near and Far, you're either in town doing worker placement actions, or you're out on the map doing adventuring.
Or the book map.
Yes, this time you can do one or the other. What are the things you're trying to do in this game? Really, it's building up your tableau board, your town board. Each player starts with the same 20 buildings in a grid. And this is a grid that goes off to the side of your board.
It's randomly placed, right?
Yep. And using the building action, you'll be trying to build up your town. You can take the first one from the outside of your grid anywhere, and then you've got to start building orthogonally to ones you've already taken.
Let's leave it there. I can.
Bring that one back. I'm going to push my grid off to the side now.
Awful. Yep.
No, it didn't quite work. So these are your resources that you're tracking down the bottom of the board here. So, yep, you're building up your your buildings, you start down the bottom and you build orthogonally out through here. So this is going to give you engine building and some actions, and it also gives you beds for villagers. So this is a very above and below sort of thing. Each building gives you a place for a villager, and each villager will give you an income of something at the end of each round. You can construct buildings which give you extra beds. So here, that one's got a bed on it. I'd have room for 2 villagers to go in there. And then at the start of the next income phase, I would be getting 2 shells for those. I'd be getting a bottled demon for this guy. I'd be getting a bottled demon for this building. Some of them have incomes. And a crystal for that one as well.
Because otherwise you won't get income.
Exactly. You get points by filling in rows, 6, 7 or 8 points, 5, 6 or 7 points for having a row with diverse
Villages.
range of villages that give you different things. And what's interesting here is all of these resources, for the most part, you're using them for money. So unlike a lot of games where you're collecting these resources and mostly you're cashing them in for contracts for advancing stuff, here it's all about money. You're essentially cashing them for the money that you use to take your other actions. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. There are certain combinations that are worth a lot more. And so at the end of each round, you'll build up a whole lot of resources, but then you're almost instantly going to cash them in as a free action for money, which is, it's different. It's something I haven't really seen elsewhere. So that's a big part of what's happening out here. You can buy gear, which are these cards here, or these tiles here. They can go in your attacking or your defending column. You've also got some private ones, some personal ones, unique to your character, that as you gain the experience resource, you can spend them on those. And these are largely used for fighting monsters. So this is something you recognize from now on, from near and far as well. You can go to a space where there's a monster, and you can engage in rounds of combat to defeat the monster. This is a major way of getting villagers, because you're freeing the villagers from the monsters. And it's a simple little mechanism. You'll roll a d4 and it will tell you which of your 4 combat slots will be used. That tells you how much damage you deal to the enemy. And then the enemy fights back with whatever's shown on it, and your defensive ones come into play. And if you lose, you still get experience out of it. So you're never completely losing in this game. There are search tokens out here that'll give you little money incomes and random effects, but you have to roll a die and lose some health to get them. There are quests, so you can collect a number of quest cards during the game, and when you move to the place shown on the quest card, you can play it. It usually costs you some books, or maybe you have to meet an objective, and these can be worth points or incomes or effects that you can do. Like this one here lets you spend mana to do an extra hero action. So you can build a lot of engine using these as well.
You have to go to a certain place as well, or
Yes.
other bonuses to get the quests.
So I mean that's the real flavour of what's going on. You'll play over 6 rounds, and then at the end of the game you'll score points for all the quests you've completed, all the rows you've filled in, and a critical place you get points from is your final income. So all the income that you get, it reads a bit oddly in the rulebook, but essentially at the end of the game your leftover money and resources are worth nothing, but then you do one more income. I don't know why I'm fumbling
Income
with this.
phase.
You do one final income, and then all of the resources you gain from that income, you cash them in at the market as you normally would, and then you get points for that money 1-to-1. There are some buildings that give you endgame points as well, and then whoever has the most points wins.
Good explanation, Taryn. Indeed, there are lots of things really going on.
Yes.
And probably took us, 45 minutes to explain it at the start?
I don't
Maybe
think,
not.
I
Maybe
don't
half
think,
an
I don't
hour.
think the explanation was that long,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I think it was certainly it's certainly been a long game when we've played it. There's
that's
a lot
right,
of
yeah.
options. There's a lot of things to think about. It's certainly longer playtime than his previous games. Any of his previous games, I think.
Combined? No, not combined.
Not combined, but this would certainly be the longest play out of any of his.
Indeed.
So, what do you think?
You beat me to
I
it.
beat you to it.
You beat me to it. It is, I can tell you one mechanics that stands out here, engine building. So engine build, engine build, engine build, and that's how you win as well. Not that I know how to, but it is the first round, as with, other engine building, maybe not. First few rounds you try to build your engine, and then the last few rounds you started to get more benefit of the engine. So the later rounds seems to be longer than the first few rounds because your engine's going, you make sure that everything is put into places and get the benefit of it. Am I right?
Yes, no
Feels
doubt.
like that, right? Yeah.
No doubt.
You have more of these specialists on your board. The first time, to be honest, I heard the rules about, you can use other players' specialists. So like, is that good or not? I don't know. I was like, because once the specialist I used, you can't use that again that round. Unless there's a special effect that flips it or whatever. You're like, it's just like you have no options as well. Other player can just use it, but they give you money. And I found that towards the end, it's actually good to have it because money is tight at times. A lot of the times money is tight.
Yeah, you can think of
Yes.
it. You can think of it as a worker placement board, like in Waterdeep, where players are adding more buildings to the board and then owning that building and getting money back for it. It's kind of like that. It's just you're not placing workers; you're flipping tiles on your board. But everyone's specialists are a pool of available.
That's actually true. I mean,
Action
there are
spaces.
times where you really want to use that, so you probably have to use them first before other people play it. Make sure you have money. So a lot of things that you have to think about. Not to mention the building. Now, the building, you have to take it from the outside and then orthogonally adjacent for the next building. So you can't just take, I just want this building, I want that building. You just have to plan ahead to take the building, and then you can only take the building next to the one that you've taken before and things like that.
Yes, and there is a mitigation for that. There's one space over here, the Hermit's Hut, where you can swap 2 tiles in your the
Building,
grid that you
the
take
grid.
from. So it lets you plan out which is the best combination of buildings to go for.
And also, as with other good engine building games, it feels very building it, like you would want to focus on your building, whether you're doing well or not. You feel like you're probably doing well, but at the end you might not necessarily doing well, like some of the games and that we played. Oh yeah, this is good, this feels good, feels like I built my engine, but then still not as good as we thought. But it's got that good feeling, that good feeling of you build that engine, it works at certain degrees, certain points, and trying to combo the best we can to get the most money, and that funnel trick, funnel income. Round number 5, at the end of round number 5, you got rid of all your money. Oh no, sorry. At the end of round number
Round
6,
six, yeah.
number 6, you get rid of all your money, and then income, and then that turns into coin.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I go on the same sort of things. I really enjoyed the game. There's a lot here that is very clever. There's a lot of options. You're not interacting that heavily with other players, but what I found here is it feels like a sandbox because you've got so many different things you can go and do. But it also feels like a really tight engine builder, and that's a
rare, isn't it?
that is rare. That's a really tough balance to hit. It's normally when you think sandbox, you're just kind of la going out and doing whatever you want. Western Legends is the classic one where it's everything kind of comes easy. Nothing really comes easy here
No.
because your money runs out so quickly. Taking these actions, buying this gear is expensive.
Paying for building.
Paying for buildings. I mean, some of the end game buildings are worth like $20. The earlier game buildings are worth $1 to $5, but you start with only $17 to $20, and you don't have a lot of ways of getting resources between rounds. It's mostly in income. So unless you go to certain spaces that let you cash in one thing for another. So by the time you've taken a couple of these actions, built a couple of buildings, bought one piece of gear, you're almost out of money. And it's really tight, and you've got to start looking for where can I squeeze that extra coin or two to get the piece of engine I need this round so I can get its income this round and not have to wait till next round.
And yes, and part of it is trying to think what your opponents are, what action your opponent needs. So these are the actions in the top right. So if all of a sudden, oh yeah, your opponent wants to use your specialist, so it flips and you get money.
Yep. Yeah, buying one of these, it's
expensive
as well. It's a huge thing early on because it costs double the action cost to buy one of these, and that this one's worth $6. So that's almost that's 20. That's
16.
What, 2/3
Sorry,
of your
12.
stuff. It's like 2/3 of your starting money.
Yeah,
it's almost all your money for the first round. But if you get that and then someone uses it every round, you're going to end up paying off with $25 back.
Yeah.
And that's a whole extra building, or most of an extra building at the end, which could be worth another 10-15 points. So
I remember in one of our games you were like, oh, let's just work together, everyone. Let's just let me use your specialist, you could use mine, because it was at the start and everything there's not a lot of varieties, and then no one uses your building.
Yeah, so I got to take an extra action early on, but then I didn't get the passive income that followed with it later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that all comes. There were definitely times where I was taking an inefficient action at the end of a round just to get that piece of income that I needed, and I find that a lot of fun and a good puzzle. Even if, and say, there's not a huge amount of interaction, but it was a really interesting puzzle to do even without that interaction.
I think this is our kind of game. We've done review before, whether it's we review things that is our type or not our type, and we'll let you know what we think, and this is our type of game which we like. It's a good one.
Yep. A couple of other things, because there's a few mechanisms here which I've never really seen exactly like this before, and I was fascinated by the way the resources worked here, the fact that it was all free action contract fulfillment. They're just potential money. There's no other way to look at resources other than potential money, and that is it's so different to anything else I've seen. I really enjoyed playing a game with that, and the fact that was also how the end game points worked. I found that different again as well, because you couldn't stock up. You just had to work the right combinations, but then a lot of these combinations you get more points if you've got sets of them all, but then these ones balance out if you've got sets of different. There was interesting timing pieces where these villages would only refill when they were all empty or when you spent a couple of experience. So sometimes you were timing your actions to make sure that you could get the ones that would fulfill your sets, because they were worth a lot of points. So many different ways you can play these quest cards. I know I didn't use them that effectively for engine building, but there are some that are worth a lot of points that give you an objective to strive for through the game, like kill lots of enemies or have lots of a certain type of villager, and that will let you play that card and get a lot of points. So yeah, it's really good in that way.
I know, and plus the bonuses that you get when you're doing something else, you try to combo the bonuses, you cover some icons, you get the bonuses like Lacerda and style.
Yep. The combat mechanism has a bit of randomness in it. The closest thing I can think of is Australia, because you're kind of just letting the dice make the effect happen. And here you can sort of work it out, but you'll roll, and the more weapons you get, the more likely you are to get the strong attacks, the more defense you get, and some of these defenses have other bonuses that you can do on them. So that is simple, and it's not going to give the control a lot of players will like in a combat game. But yes, for again what feels like kind of a gentle sandbox, it's a nice.
It is very interesting. I mean, the previous game in the same universe, it's sandboxy. It feels sandboxy, while this one focused more on engine building.
Yeah, the other one was sandboxy with purpose. Like you'd get a bit of strength, and then you'd go out and you'd try to score as many points as you could. Whereas here, it's all about the engine, and that's where I'll come to the one caution I have with the game, I suppose. And it's not necessarily a criticism, but it's something to be quite aware of, and it's something that I always think of for Clans of Caledonia. It always reminds me of my first game of Clans of Caledonia, because that's another game where you're building an engine that is giving you money, and then you use that money to take most of your actions in the next round, and then those actions lead to more engine. This game can snowball, and it can get to the point where after round 2 or 3, you can if someone's got a stronger engine than everyone else, they will win. It will snowball in that way. Because engine leads to money, which leads to more actions, which leads to more engine. And then in the end, your engine is your points. The resources you gain are a huge portion of your final points.
That's true.
So, you don't be surprised, particularly if you've got a couple of players who've played before and a couple who haven't, if someone has kind of got the game locked down by the end of round 3. And given it is quite a long game to play, that is a downside. It's something to watch out for. But I still enjoyed building and then using my engine because it had that sandboxy element to it as well. Even if you could see you're not going to win, there's still a lot of fun to be had, I think.
Still, because of the sandbox and adventuring, as I said earlier as well, it feels engine build and feels efficient and it feels good, regardless of whether your engine is good or not. We also have the chapters. So there is the basic game, which we don't actually read, a la Near and Far and Above and Beyond style. So Above and Below style. Yep. And these are the chapters. So
yes, so as with his other books in the series, there are adventures you could go and find. So these are search tokens on the board, and if you're just playing the standalone game, gives you a little bit of income and a random benefit. First time I played, I kept getting these ones. It gave me lots of extra villages, but I wanted the money income because I wanted to have a certain number of search tokens.
And this one?
Buy gear. It's basically 6 money, but you have to buy a gear. So these all have letters, and in the campaign mode, you will instead read the scenario from the book and do a skill check and make all of the choices that you...
It depends on this one, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, okay. That's correct,
The monsters all over the board. I mean, monsters can give you engine building as well. The weaker monsters, they're very easy to defeat if you've got a reasonable amount of health, and they give you a villager, which gives you an engine build step, and then
an income.
The weaker ones dwindle, and you go up to the stronger ones. That's very much like the bandits from Near and Far. I'm familiar with that as well. So
it's true, yeah.
Yeah, you can see a lot of Near and Far in this, but it is it's a longer and more sandboxy and kind of different type of game.
Yeah. So if you like Near and Far, maybe you like this one, but I don't think it replaces each other.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You could knock out Near and Far in the first half of a night. This one is probably a whole night.
Probably a whole night, yeah. So have you actually played Above and Below or Near and Far? We've started campaign for Near and Far, and I think some of our members just went overseas, and then it's kind of like got replaced with somebody else, and then after that COVID happened, so I didn't really play it.
That's true.
It's one of those, but it was great. It was interesting. I feel like that's the story alone is interesting, even though if you're not winning.
Indeed.
So yeah, let us know, or maybe you have played Near and Far. What do you think? I mean, Ryan Laukat has got this style of art with Sleeping Gods as well. Sleeping Gods is cooperative, and this one isn't. It's still good. They're both they're all different games. It's different games, but
Yes, of
Good
course. It's
game.
got the stories. That one's much more story driven. That's a genuine sandbox.
yeah,
This one is a competitive Euro sandbox.
yeah, that's true. That's true. With with chapters, more
It's
scenarios.
got everything. It's got a whole lot of extra tokens for these scenarios as well.
Anything else,
Yeah.
Tara?
No, I think that covers it. The characters are unique as well. They've each got their own
Yes.
strengths and weaknesses that you can play to. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, they play fit.
That is everybody. Let us know if you have played any of those games, even this game. What do you think? Even Sleeping Gods, any of Ryan Lockett's games. I think we've played almost all of his games, including the 5 minutes dungeons.
8 minute.
At minutes.
8 minute legends.
10 minutes legend. Oh my gosh.
Quite
I
different.
got
to 5
confused.
minute
Sorry. There's another one as well. Something Rush. Klondike Rush. No.
Klondike Rush.
Klondike Rush.
City of Iron.
Yeah, there's a few of those. So I do like the art. He's a very talented person. And that's it.
That is it.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you find this useful, please hit the like button. That will really helpful. And subscribe to us if you haven't already done so. Click the meeple somewhere in the corner there. I'm also on Instagram, so find me there. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.